Hello and welcome to another edition of Talkin' Tunes. I am your host, Frank Walsh. Thanks for tuning in today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a little bit of a different kind of a show for you today because we are going to be talking about a wonderful show that's going to be playing in our backyard right over in Norwood. And I have a gentleman here today who is a formidable musician in his own right, but right now he is the producer and director for the Rat Pack is Back. And of course, we all knew who the Rat Pack is. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis Jr. So to talk about some of the experiences with this band and to talk about the show that's going to be upcoming in September, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Dick Feeney. Dick, how are you?
Great to be here, Frank. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you, man. I tell you, I mean, you know, we could have done a show before the show if we had the cameras rolling.
That's right.
You have more stories than the Empire State Building, I think.
Yeah. I just found a singer that my friend and Rick and I worked with 45 years ago.
Oh.
And one of the guys in the office there asked us if we knew this guy, and we said we haven't been able to find him.
I tell you, it was like old home week here for about a half an hour.
Yeah.
But I just found out right before the camera came on that you were part of a group that was one of my favorites growing up, which was Ronnie Lewis's band. Ronnie is a legend in this town.
Lewis and Clark and the Expedition.
Lewis and Clark and the Expedition, and I was saying that was one of the best show bands around. You'd come out with the suits, and you'd had the steps and the moves.
Oh yeah.
There was nobody better for show tunes than that group.
We're having a big reunion tomorrow, big barbecue at Ronnie's house.
That's awesome. Well, you make sure you say hello to Ronnie.
I absolutely will.
But,
I got him 3 years ago. The whole gang came to Vegas.
Wow.
And I picked him up at the airport in a van, and we laughed and joked for 4 days straight.
I could see
Non-stop.
I could see that. But you're a local guy. You came out of this
Rockland.
area, came out of Rockland, and then you're out in Vegas right now, huh?
Been there for 35 years.
Wow. So how did you get involved in the Rat Pack is Back? So, talk a little bit about that. And if you want to talk a little bit about your background before you get into that, feel free.
Well, I started off playing the trumpet in school, and then ended up in high school in another local band that was really popular called Utopia. And it was from the Rockland, Whitman, Bridgewater area.
Yep.
And then got into Lewis and Clark Expedition. I was with them for 5 years, traveled around all over the country. But I always decided I wanted to do a show, and not just a show band. And so I actually came up with this concept for a 1940s show. And it was back when my folks were in their 60s. So it was that era, my father was in the war and stuff. So I put together a show and put together a partnership of a bunch of doctors, investors here from Boston. Yeah.
Wow.
And went to Honolulu, opened the first show there in Waikiki, because it was that age group was traveling there to see the Pearl Harbor and all that memorial stuff. And that's how I got starting doing shows.
Now that was more, would that be like the American Songbook kind of music?
No,
or
it was
what kind of music were you playing?
It was 1940s music.
Oh, the 40s, okay,
40s.
The war, kind of the war era.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
And it was a first thing I did with dancers and production. And
wow.
Then I took that show to Atlantic City. And then actually Boston, in I think the summer of '85, we did it at the Bradford Hotel.
Wow.
I
remember the old Bradford, yeah.
And then I went to Las Vegas with a show called La Cage.
La Cage aux Folles.
And opened up some other shows. And in '91, I started a show called Viva Las Vegas. Ran for 18 years. Las Vegas, longest running afternoon show.
Was that you had an Elvis?
There was no Elvis.
No Elvis?
No.
What was the Viva Las Vegas?
That was the title of it. It was dancers and specialty acts and stuff. It was like a Vegas show.
Awesome.
But so I got into producing. I've produced dozens of shows. I think performance-wise, the shows that I've produced and directed, there's over 37,000 performances.
Wow.
So I've been doing it for a little while.
Wow. So if I ever need any expertise on running an event, you're the guy to talk to, right?
Hopefully, yeah.
So talk about the show that's going to be coming up and how you got involved in that. What made you focus and say, hey, I want to do a Frank Sinatra, or I want to do a Rat Pack, I want to do something in that vein. How did that come about?
Well, there are a couple shows that tried and sort of failed, and they were doing the older version of the guys.
Okay.
And I had all the footage from the Sands Hotel. That's where I opened up Viva Las Vegas. So I had access to the archives. So I had original footage from 1960.
Wow.
When they were filming the movie Ocean's 11, and they were appearing at night in the Sands.
Wow.
In the Copa Room. So I had the footage, and wanted to create something that was a remake of the 1960s when they were in their 40s. When they were young,
yeah,
and in their
kind
40s,
of in their prime too, and they had the swagger and
yeah. So the show is pretty much based on the 1960s performances, and we do most of it's scripted, about 85% scripted, but then, and their show was too.
Okay.
They made it look like it wasn't, but it was scripted.
Right.
Because I have the tapes to show they did the same thing every night as a basis, and then it's all bets off when they start ad-libbing. And my guys are the same way. They'll get going with each other, with the audience, and laughing, and depending on who's giving feedback. So there's that ad-lib element to it. I'll tell you, one of my favorite stories is, you're going to see a picture, hopefully, or some video of my Dean Martin.
Yep.
He's a dead ringer of Dean Martin in his 40s. His name's Drew Anthony. And the show is running in Vegas, and this is about 12 years ago. And we had another Dean in the show. And I got a tap on the shoulder, and I looked over, and it's this guy, Drew. And he says, Mr. Feeney, I came to audition. The local agent, Steve, told me to come by. And I said, sure, I'll audition you. There he is right there. He says, I'd like to audition for Frank. And I looked at him, and I was dumbfounded. I said, but you look like Dean. And he goes, well, I don't do Dean, I do Frank. I said, not in my show. And he goes, you won't audition me? I said, how could I audition you? I'm going to say, ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the chairman of the board, all blue eyes, and and Dean Martin walks out. You're a dead ringer. So he goes, well, okay. I said, where are you from? He says, Connecticut. I said, go home to Connecticut, look in the mirror. You're looking at a 35-year-old Dean Martin, dead ringer.
Lucky guy.
Yeah. I said, and start learning Dean. 9 months later, I got a tap on the shoulder again. I turned around, it was him, and he says, hi, Mr. Feeney, I now do Dean. I said, I'll audition you tomorrow.
Good
and that
for
was
you.
it. He's been with the show ever since.
Good for you. Good for you. Now, this show that's coming up in Norwood, talk a little bit about that. What is it like? They're going to have the big band.
Yep.
And so they're going to do certainly the Dean songs. How do they come up with the selection of songs? Like, is there much variation from show to show? How do they, format that? I'm sure they play in many different places. Do they change up a little bit?
It's basically the same format. If the guys are getting tired of doing certain songs, we'll rotate some other songs in. We try and do naturally the big hits that everybody recognizes and everybody wants.
Right.
We even bend the timeline a bit, because if you don't do My Way, there's a riot.
Of course.
So, and My Way really wasn't recorded till the late 60s. So it's out of the, but we sort of massage that around a bit.
That would be a good way to end the show, right? Wouldn't it be after they take their bows and come back and do that as a little encore type of thing?
We've done it as the encore. Frank would come out and say, did we forget something? And everybody will start screaming My Way.
Right.
And he'll do it as an encore.
Now, answer me this, and I don't know if it was something that I had done myself, but when Sinatra was making a joke, or maybe Dean Martin or Sammy or somebody along the way, when they were doing My Way, they would go, and I did it sideways. Did somebody do that? Was that part of their shtick? Or, because I remember I used to say that, and I don't know whether I just did that on my own or I copied that.
You did it on your own.
I did it on my own?
They didn't do that.
Well, you could throw that into the script and
that
give me
would be
credit
sacrilegious,
for it.
though.
You
don't mess with Frank. They would mess with each other backstage as they were singing between the lines. They would throw out different jokes and stuff. But you don't mess with my way.
Right.
When Frank's singing.
Oh, I'm sure. Now, did you ever meet him? Did you ever have an opportunity to meet Frank?
No, I
or
saw
any
him
of them?
New Year's Eve in '88. I saw him in Vegas. Sammy, I actually got to meet and hang out with twice after his shows. He used to do a show at Bally's with Jerry Lewis in the late '80s.
Okay.
A couple of years before he passed away, and he invited me up to his suite, and he was great. He would get behind the bar and hold court, and he would just start telling stories and
No
serving
question.
drinks, and like 2.5 hours both times I was up there with him.
Wow.
He was great.
Yeah, I said hello. He said hello. He shook my hand, shook my mother's hand when he was playing a number of gigs down at the South Shore Music Circus.
Right.
You know, probably 20 years ago, you know, and he was phenomenal. The voice he had was just phenomenal.
And live, I never knew how good he was until I saw him live.
Yeah.
I mean, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, he was great. But I think it might be time if our esteemed director, Roxanne, and our esteemed director, Laureen, can put up a little video. And maybe we can get a taste of these guys and see what they're all about.
Terrific.
Luck be a lady tonight. Luck be a lady tonight. Luck if you've never been a lady to begin with. Luck be a lady tonight. When the stars make you drool just like pasta fazool, that's amore. When you dance down the street with a cloud at your feet, you're in love. You're nobody, till somebody loves you. You ain't nobody till somebody cares. Well, you may be the king and you may possess all the world and its gold. Gold won't bring us happiness, not when we're growing old.
That old black magic has me in its spell. That old black magic that you weave so well. Icy fingers up and down my spine. That same old witchcraft when your eyes meet mine. That same old
You make me feel so young. You make me feel there are songs to be sung, bells to be rung, and a wonderful flame to be flung. When I'm going gray, I'm gonna feel the way I do today. Baby, you make me feel so young.
closer than peaches that stick in a
And
book.
my
Closer than ripples that play in a brook. Wherever you'll find him, you'll find me just now.
Avenue. She hates California. It's so cold and damp. That's why the lady. That is why the lady. That's why the lady is a tramp.
Wow, that looks like a heck of a show.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun show to
Yeah.
be involved with because it's all the stuff I did. You know,
Yeah.
I played trumpet and sang, and
Right.
and so it drives the guys crazy because I know every note they play and what they do wrong, and if they sing something off or a harmony.
Right.
But it's fun.
Right.
Because it's right out of my era. I love swing music. Always have.
Right. Yeah, we can talk a little bit more, but I think we can remind the folks of the upcoming show. It's going to be on what? September
21st,
September
Saturday.
21st,
Yep.
over at the Norwood Theater.
Norwood Theater.
And they can either go to the box office, or they can just call up
Go
the Norwood
online.
Theater, go online, and they can get some tickets for that.
Yeah.
That looks like a heck of a show. I just may have to clear out my calendar a little bit.
Yeah, we were there, I think, 5 years ago. We sold out.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great.
Nice.
Love
Now-
the theater. Love it.
Cool. Now, I know you're playing around Norwood. You guys travel all over the country, though, right? You know, all over the place.
Actually going to Hong Kong in October.
You just anticipated my question. I was just going to ask if you play in Europe or play overseas.
We
And
played everywhere. We've played in over 40 states in the U.S. We went to Santiago, Chile.
Nice.
About 5 years ago,
Nice.
which was a thrill. I really loved it. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Yeah, the guys, we do a lot of corporates, we do casinos, we do private parties. And the show runs 6 nights a week in Las Vegas and has for 21 years.
Wow. Now, do you travel around with them all the time? You know, when
No.
they go to these places,
No,
do you hit the road?
No, I use the excuse to come back to Boston because it's my old home. So I still have some friends, and
Yeah.
you met Rick, my
I
old buddy
did,
we played
I
with
did.
for years, and he's
I did.
probably my best friend in the world.
Yeah.
Or I'll travel. We went to Monte Carlo, France with the show.
Love it.
So
Love Monte Carlo. Where'd you play? Did you play in the casino?
we played a big special event. I actually produced shows. I produced a show with Playboy years ago.
Okay.
In the casino.
Okay.
And in the sporting house. The Rat Pack, we did a special event.
Okay.
In one of their properties over there.
Yeah.
But I just got the call from Hong Kong, and I said, well, it's on my bucket list. I'm going on that trip. You know, so.
Awesome. That's going to be cool. If you ever have a chance to get into France, go to France.
Yeah.
Try to play over there, because you know, their music. You know, they're such appreciators of music, American music, and you know, and other guests that I've had on my show, we talk about the differences between the American audiences and the European and the Asian. It's that they are so, you know, respectful and so in awe of American music. They treat, you know, the American people like almost like gods, and some of these people are just regular people. You know, they're not the Springsteens of the world, or they're
Right.
not the Muddy Waters. These are
Right.
just, you know, really good, solid musicians who, you know, play the circuit, but they get treated like gods.
Yeah.
Now, you know, this job, is this your full-time gig? You know, producing and taking care of this?
No, I'm
or-
a bartender in the daytime.
Really? In Vegas?
No. No, I've been extremely fortunate.
Yeah.
I tell people they say, when are you going to retire? And I'm like, why would I ever retire?
Why
from
retire,
something?
right? Right.
I've been doing this since I was 17 years old.
They say if you love what you
professionally.
do, you never work a day in your life.
It's play. It's always been play.
Yeah.
I was either on stage
Yeah.
for half my life and the other side behind the stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I just get, you know, entertainment's funny because people get on stage. Where in this world do you do your job and people start applauding you? I mean, it's too bad
Right.
that a lot of people don't get applause after when they do a good job.
Right.
But it's instant feedback. People love you. And the transition for me was coming off the stage, and now I stand at the back of the room when people leave the show. And when they're laughing and they're talking about it amongst themselves, wasn't that great? That's my applause. That's my payback. You know, that's
Understood.
it's a great rush every time I do it,
Understood.
you know.
Now, do you pick up your instruments at all? Do you still play around and you know, get out there and play, or you know, jump into a band or a jam every once in a
my
while?
main instrument was trumpet.
Yeah.
And when the embouchure goes, if I pick up the trumpet now, I'm good for about 3 minutes, and then
Okay.
really,
yeah.
yeah, it just goes to, you know, I can't stay in tune or anything. So
Cool.
I'll get up and sing once in a while at a karaoke bar or something,
Really?
you know, just for fun.
Cool. How long you in town for?
I'm here through Sunday.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when you're not listening to you know, the American Songbook and listen to these guys, what are you into otherwise? You know, what do you? Well, I'll rephrase that and say, you know, what do you think of the current state of music today? Because you know, we're pretty much the same generation, and you know, we came up from Woodstock and all the way through, and have seen many, many changes to music. Do you keep up with the current music scene? And
Well,
being in Vegas, you must see a lot of stuff out there.
You know, there's that new mix of country and rap. They call it crap.
Is that what they call it? That part of the shtick of the routine? Hey, Sammy, you heard about the new music style?
One of my favorite lines I ever heard was, Buddy Rich was in the hospital and the nurse came over and grabbed his chart and said, "You allergic to anything?" And he said, "Country music." And but actually nowadays, country music is the only ones with lyrics and a melody.
That you can pretty much understand,
Yeah.
correct? Yeah.
And it's come very mainstream. Doesn't have the twang, and some of the bigger stars are singing it now, and it's sort of the only songs you can relate to. It's
Yeah.
sad, but that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Other than folk, you get into some of the folk music and some of that, that
Little
stuff,
bit of
you
that,
can
yeah.
understand it.
And the
but,
blues.
the blues, of course, I'm
Yeah.
pretty big into the blues. And, I've asked other people that question, and, it's interesting the interpretations that people get. You talk to some of the old blues guys, for example, and, they just consider the blues stuff today not even the blues.
Right.
They combine it, they play too many, oftentimes they say they play too many notes.
Right. Yeah.
They just
Put in
they're
as
just-
many as
they're
you
just
can.
throwing as many notes as you can, either on the guitar or a saxes or whatever they're playing. They're just playing notes.
Years ago at Paul's Mall, I remember that.
Paul's Mall,
I saw this.
right
this-
next to, there were two of them side by side. There's
Jazz
Paul
Workshop.
Mall's and Jazz Workshop, right underground. Yeah,
And a very good friend of mine, Fred Taylor, owned them.
sure. Fred Taylor Scullers.
Yeah, he was, and I went there one night and I saw this band. There was a drummer I knew, and they were an up and coming band. They were a great band. They were the opening act for B.B. King.
Wow.
And when this band played, they were musically phenomenal. And when B.B. King came out, the contrast was unbelievable. But he came out and they just started walking the bass, and he came out, and the fewer the notes, the better. And it took about 4 minutes before I was really into it.
It all-
I mean, it
yeah.
just sunk in.
Yeah.
And it made the other band sound like noise.
Oh yeah.
They just knew how to play it. And
Yeah.
it was, as you say, not too many notes.
Exactly. I mean, I saw, very similar to that. I went to a private party and tribute to James Cotton. And, anybody who was anybody was up on the stage. There was Huey Lewis. There was, I can't even remember them all. But they were all playing a lot of James Cotton stuff, and they were all playing their music. And as you say, they bring James Cotton out. He holds court in the middle of the stage, and all of a sudden, he starts doing his thing.
Right.
So you hear the guys playing their songs, playing his numbers, and then you hear James Cotton do it, just like the B.B. King. It's like totally different, slows things down, clear, crisp,
Right.
played the way that he wanted it to
And you
play.
can feel it.
Oh, no
can
question,
feel
rather than the people interpreting
Right.
his music.
Right.
But I think we have another little clip of you, and you may have to produce an ID and show whether or not it's the same guy who you're going to see.
Has he got hair? Or
Yeah, I don't know, but we have a little clip of you. I guess you were on the news at one point, and you were talking to one of our Boston legends, Tom Bergeron. So let's take a look at that.
Good morning again. It's almost 11:30.
Look at
I'm
him.
Tom Bergeron. With me is producer-director Dick Feeney.
Who's that
Now,
with
Dick,
him?
you're bringing from the Tropicana in Atlantic City Lullaby of Swing to Boston. And you're willing to make some of our viewers stars. Is that right? Tell us more about
We're
it.
looking for some local talent to put in the show. Looking for some singer-dancers. In particular, I'm looking for an Andrews sister. to
Just
blend
one
in.
Andrews sister?
Yeah,
Uh-huh,
to blend in with the
okay.
girls.
There we're seeing some of the actual show, the Lullaby of Swing. And this is going to be performed where in Boston?
Bradford Hotel, Cabaret Room.
And it's primarily a montage of 40s era songs, right?
Celebration of big band musical, swing music.
All right, if you'd like to be a star, and who doesn't? 329-7099 is the number to call for more information about auditions. 329-7099. See you in about a half an hour. Stay with us.
You haven't changed a day.
Wow.
You haven't changed a day.
The accent was a little stronger back
I
then.
tell you, us
My
Boston
goodness.
guys, us Boston guys,
Wow. Wow.
How long ago is that?
That had to be 1985.
85, wow. Again, in our world, 85 doesn't seem so far away.
I know. Yeah.
That's really cool. Now, would you have any, any little tidbits or any little anecdotes or something that you might want to share that people may not know, let's say about Sinatra or Sammy Davis or Dean Martin? Any little anecdotes or pieces that you might have picked up along the way that you could find interesting? And of course PG.
PG. Well, I know Dina Martin, Dean's daughter.
Okay.
And the truth is, although he played a drunk, or he, as if he was half lit all the time, he actually was always drinking apple juice.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, he very seldom
That's
had
interesting.
anything to drink. Sammy, his nickname was Smokey, and it's because he smoked 3 packs a day, and that was the
I
name
believe that.
That's the name that Frank gave him.
He'd smoke him in all his shows.
Right. And Frank was a great humanitarian.
Yes, he was.
There was one night where there were a couple of guys out in front of the casino, and they were beaten up really badly on this guy, and Frank came out and said, "Okay, that's enough. Save the guy."
Interesting.
Did you get that?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, okay. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. What the guy have on the show?
That's enough.
What the guy have on the show is great timing.
Right.
That's cool. Yeah, because I remember growing up with all that. My mother, she loved Sinatra. Who didn't? And it's interesting. A quick aside is that, I'm a Facebook guy. We're on Facebook, and these questions pop every once in a while. Who has the best voice? Who's your most favorite singer? All those variations of singer. Right. Now I look at the clips and everything, and everybody's saying, Van Halen, Bon Jovi. They're rattling off every name in the book. I put down Sinatra every single time, and I'll either get like the emojis like what, or they're like, what are you crazy? But right. It was always Sinatra. Sinatra for me. A toss-up between, Barbra Streisand and Linda Eder for best female voices. But, it's always Sinatra to me. Yeah. Nobody could beat Sinatra.
Yeah, but he only referred to himself as a barroom singer.
Yeah.
He didn't think he was the best.
Yeah.
He looked up to Tony Bennett's, people like that.
Yes.
I'll tell you, my favorite singer is Bobby Darin. Because as good as Frank was,
Darin had a great voice.
Darin could swing.
Yes.
And he could interpret a song, and he could do any style. And we lost him way too young because I really enjoy.
And Sinatra, wasn't. He had some rhythm, but he wasn't. Even like Elvis, Elvis was not one who had great rhythm and could really move. He could wiggle and shake, but he didn't have a lot of rhythm. But Dick, one of the enemies of the show is always the clock.
That's
and
it.
First of all, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed it. And also, why don't you say one more time about this show over in Norwood?
Well, it's going to be at the Norwood Theater, September 21st.
Yep.
7:30 p.m. Saturday, and it's going to be a great time. The guys always give 110%.
Yep.
And it's all live music. There's no click tracks. There's nothing in the background.
It's normally about what, 2 hours maybe, give or take?
An hour and a half.
Hour and a half?
About an hour and a half. Yeah.
Well, hopefully I can find some time and get over
there.
there.
You got to come by.
Absolutely.
I'll be there.
But Dick, I want to thank you very much for coming in, and I want to thank everybody here at SMAC and everybody here who was involved in getting you here. And wouldn't be a show without our great director, Roxanne Morse, and assisting her today is Laureen Kubek. So folks, if you enjoy the Rat Pack and Good Some Tunes, go over to the Norwood Theater. But until then, thank you to everybody here at SMAC. Once again, thanks to my guest, Dick Feeney.
Thank you.
I am Frank Walsh. Tune in and tune on.
That was